The sound of the last dial tone. The cassette tape. Autumn 1998. The rain had been falling for 3 days without interruption. Not the kind of rain that cleanses, but the kind that seeps into cracks, into walls, into memories, into people. The city looked permanently wet, as if it had been submerged and then forgotten by whoever was supposed to drain it. Daniel Moore stepped out of his car and pulled his coat tighter around his shoulders. The streetlights flickered, throwing long, broken shadows across the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a train passed, its metallic roar echoing like a low, restless growl. Daniel hated that sound. He lived alone in a narrow apartment building that smelled of dust, old paint, and resignation. The kind of place where people stayed longer than they intended and left later than they should have. As he opened the front door, something slid through the mailbox slot and landed softly on the floor. He froze. Instinct was a habit he could never unlearn. Slowly, he bent down and picked up the envelope. No stamp, no return address, no handwriting he recognized. Inside was a single object, a cassette tape. Daniel turned it over in his hands. The plastic was scratched, slightly yellowed. It had weight, not just physical, but emotional, like it carried something that had been waiting a long time to be heard. On the label, written in uneven ink, were 3 words. Play at night. Daniel exhaled slowly. In 1998, cassette tapes were obsolete. CDs were everywhere. Digital was creeping in. Anyone still using tapes was either nostalgic, paranoid, or deliberately trying to avoid leaving fingerprints in the present. He placed the envelope and tape on the kitchen table and stared at them for a long time. Something deep inside him stirred. An old tension, a familiar dread. The feeling that came when the past knocked, not gently, but with the certainty that it would not leave until answered. A voice from the dead. Daniel waited until midnight. Not because the note told him to, but because some things demanded darkness. Night softened the edges of reality. Night made the impossible feel temporarily acceptable. He pulled an old tape recorder from the back of his closet. It was heavy, outdated, stubborn, much like him. He plugged it in, hesitated, then slid the cassette into place. The machine clicked. At first, there was only static. A hiss, a crackle, then silence. And then, the unmistakable sound of a public telephone dial tone. Daniel's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. The tone was short, mechanical, cold. It belonged to another era, another way of communicating, another kind of anonymity. Then a voice emerged. If you're hearing this, the voice said, then someone still remembers. Daniel felt his heart skip. He knew that voice, not from recordings, not from files, but from interrogation rooms thick with cigarette smoke and tension, from sleepless nights, from a case that never gave him peace. Elliot Cross, the prime suspect in a murder case from 1989. A man who walked free. A man who disappeared. Daniel had watched Elliot leave the station for the last time, convinced he was guilty but unable to prove it. And now, 10 years later, his voice was speaking again. I never left, Elliot continued calmly. I just stopped being seen. Daniel's mouth was dry. His mind raced, trying to anchor itself in logic. Old recordings? A sick joke? Someone imitating Elliot's voice? But deep down, he knew this was no imitation. The Girl by the Tracks. The murder happened on December 17, 1989. Her name was Mara Lynn. She was 20 years old, an art student with ink-stained notebooks and unfinished dreams. She worked part-time at a bookstore near the station. People remembered her smile more than anything else. It made her seem safe, familiar. Her body was found near the train tracks just after midnight. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the back of the head. No weapon was ever recovered. Daniel had been on the force for less than 2 years at the time. He still believed justice was a straight line, that enough effort could close any case. Elliot Cross was the last person seen with her. Witnesses reported an argument, voices raised, gestures sharp. But arguments were common. Proof was not. There are no clean fingerprints, no blood trail, no surveillance cameras. Just the station, the phone booth, and the endless sound of trains passing by, erasing everything in their wake. Elliot denied killing her. His alibi was weak, but not false. The case stalled. Pressure mounted. The department needed closure. And when none came, the file was stamped unsolved. 2 weeks later, Elliot Cross vanished. Some said he fled. Some said he was dead. Daniel said nothing, but he never stopped listening for that voice. The public phone. The tape ended with Elliot speaking softly. It all started with that call. Then the dial tone returned. Then silence. Daniel stopped the recorder. He already knew where he had to go. The train station hadn't changed much in 10 years. Same cracked concrete, same flickering lights, same phone booth standing slightly apart from the rest of the structure. Like an afterthought the city never bothered to remove. Officially, it had been out of service for years. But tonight, its small bulb was glowing. Daniel approached slowly. Rain soaked his shoes. The air smelled like rust and electricity. He lifted the receiver. A dial tone. Clear. Present. Alive. "Hello," he said quietly. Nothing, but the silence felt crowded. He hung up, heart pounding. For the first time in a decade, he felt the past standing directly in front of him. Not as memory, but as accusation. The man who saw everything. The homeless man had been around the station longer than anyone could remember. Some called him Noah. Others called him nothing at all. Daniel found him sitting near the tracks, wrapped in a torn blanket. "I saw someone by the phone," Noah said without being asked. "When?" Daniel asked. "A few nights ago. Late." "What did he look like?" Noah smiled faintly. "Like someone who shouldn't exist anymore." Daniel swallowed. "Elliot Cross?" Noah shook his head slowly. "Or maybe you." The words cut deeper than Daniel expected. The second tape, the second cassette appeared without warning. No envelope, no knock. It was waiting on Daniel's kitchen table when he came home. His hand shook as he pressed play. Breathing filled the room. Slow, close. Then Elliot's voice again. "You were there too, Daniel. You heard the phone ring. You chose not to answer." The memories flooded back, blurred, fragmented, painful. Rain. A girl crying. A ringing phone. Daniel, younger, standing in the shadows. Watching. Doing nothing. He stopped the tape. The truth wasn't about Elliot. It never had been. The last dial tone. The phone rang that night. Daniel answered. A dial tone. Breathing. Silence. He knew that if he spoke, everything would finally be said. So he didn't. The line went dead, but the sound stayed.